61 upgrade. So today I'm going to be installing the telemetry into Demon, and guys, I won't lie, there is a ton of parts you need. So let's go ahead and cover them. First up, you are going to need the TQI transmitter, and on top of that, you will need the corresponding TQI receiver. After that, you're going to need the TQI docking base if it's not already installed onto your remote. Also, you're going to need an iPhone. iPhone 4S is the latest you can go. Thank you to Coyote, he donated the phone. As for the base, Radio Control 360 donated it to me. Next up, you're going to need the temperature and voltage setup. This includes part number 6523, which is the sensor itself. Then the power tap for the sensor, which is part number 6541, and finally the temperature mount, which is part number 6535. All these donated to me by Coyote0976. Then finally, you're going to need the RPM setup. We have the RPM sensor, part number 6522, donated to me by Coyote0976. And then we have the wire retainer mount for the gear cover, which is part number 6537. And then we have the magnet holder, which is part number 6538. And then finally, we need the gear cover if you don't have one already, which is part number 3792. And that's everything that you're going to need for the telemetry. So guys, let's go ahead and get this installed. I'm going to start off by installing the sensor for the temperature and voltage. First thing I gotta do is take apart the waterproof receiver box. It's held together with 4 screws. We have 2 that hold the wire tie down in place, and then 1 on each side that holds the top of the waterproof receiver box down. With those screws out of the way, you can pull off the wire tie down and pop open the top of the waterproof receiver box. Now, when you look at the receiver itself, you're gonna see these 2 slots on top. The very top one is voltage and temperature. The one right below it is RPM. So we're going to start off with our temperature and voltage. We're going to roll out the wire just like that. And now we're going to get this and plug it into the temperature and voltage detection, just like that. Now this wire gets fed right through the top of the waterproof receiver box. Now that that's taken care of, you can see that there is a sensor right there in the middle of the loop. You're going to go ahead and make this go all the way to your motor. As you can see, I fed it right through the shock tower, and now this needs to rest on the motor itself. And that's when the mount for the heat sensor comes in. You're going to get a zip tie and then the actual brace itself. The brace, as you can see, has a little spot for the sensor to fit in. So you're just going to slide that into position, just like that, and then you're going to use a wire tie in order to hold it down to the motor. And there you have it, the temperature gauge has been mounted. Now in order for me to even get it on there, I had to take the motor out. In order to take the motor out, I had to remove the gear cover. The gear cover is held on with 2 screws. We have 1 on top, 1 on bottom. Once you get those screws out of the way, the gear cover will come right on off. And this is where the motor is mounted. It's held in with 2 screws. Now if your pinion gear is too big, you're going to have to take it off in order to remove the motor. The pinion gear can be removed by undoing this little grub screw. Now once you put the motor back in, you're going to want to get the perfect spacing between the spur gear and the pinion gear. Too close together and they're going to grind. Too far apart and it's going to destroy your spur gear. Now let's go ahead and go back to the waterproof receiver box. Alright, so now you guys can see that the wires are getting a little out of control. Just to make things a little bit easier to understand, I'm going to unplug the ESC and the servo. ESC is plugged into channel 2 on the receiver box, and the servo is plugged into either one of the channel 1s. Okay, let's get those wires out of the way. Much better. Now we're going to go ahead and get the power plug from the sensor. We're going to feed it through the top and then connect the power tab. The power tab, of course, you can see connects to where the battery connects. We're going to unravel all this wire, and now we're just going to go ahead and plug it right on in to the battery plug. Once that's taken care of, you're going to go ahead and feed the wire along the positive wire that leads back to the ESC, and then use the included wire tie to hold it down. Once all that's taken care of, you're just going to go ahead and feed the plug all the way down to the sensor and plug it in. Now that that's taken care of, it's on to the RPM sensor. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start off with the sensor itself, then we're going to get the mount. I'm going to be using this mount. And you can see that there is a little spot for the sensor to go ahead and snap in. So you're going to push that in, hold it in place, then you're going to feed the wires into the little groove, Now we need the gear cover. The gear cover, you can see, has a little spot for the wire to come out of. And we're going to slide it down into position like this. And then it's held down with the 2 included screws. Once those screws are in place, it's all up to you, but I'm going to go ahead and cut off this little flap since I don't need that anymore. And now it's time to go ahead and get this on the RC. Now if you haven't done so already, you're going to have to take off the old gear cover. It's held in with 2 screws, one on top and one on bottom. So once you get the gear cover off, it's time to go ahead and install the magnet mount. Now you can see that there's 2 options in there. We're going to be using the smaller one. Now you will see that the magnet itself is rather powerful and it's connected to all the screws. So we're going to have to pull all of them off. And then once you get your magnet, you're going to go ahead and slide it into that little slot right there. Once you have the magnet installed, it's time to go ahead and remove the 3 screws that are on the spur gear. Once you get all 3 of your screws removed, you're just going to go ahead and get the magnet mount, line it up, push it in, and then you're going to install it by using the 3 small screws. Once that's taken care of, it's time to go ahead and attach the gear cover that has a sensor in it. Remember, the 2 screws you remove, the longer one goes on top, the shorter one goes on bottom. Once that's installed, you're going to go ahead and get the wire, feed it through the shock tower, and then back through the top of the receiver box. And then you're going to plug it into the RPM. Once you have that plugged in, as well as everything else, all you have to do is reseal the waterproof receiver box. Remember, a screw goes in on each side. After that, you're going to push all the wires in and then put the wire tie down on. Here is before. And here is after. It looks like a huge mess of wires, honestly, but, well, I guess that's the cost of having telemetry. Now it's on to the transmitter. So the first thing I need to do is install the docking base, and I'm going to start off by undoing this screw. Once you remove that screw, you're just going to grab the half of the handle, lift it up, and pull it off. Now you're going to be undoing this screw. Once you get that one out of the way, you can finally pull off the base. Now you just gotta be careful about the battery connection. Once that's undone, you're gonna get the new base. You're gonna start off by plugging in the battery. Once you have the battery plugged in, you're gonna go ahead and plug in all the other wires. Now it all leads to this one single plug, and you can see that there is one spot that is blocked off. And there is one spot that doesn't have a prong. So you're gonna go ahead and line that up, plug it in, and then you're gonna set all the wires into this little groove. Once you get the wires underneath the 2 teeth, then you're going to get the base, slide into position, and then reinstall this screw. Once that's taken care of, you're going to go ahead and get that half of the handle, put the teeth into the top of the remote, slide it down, and then insert this screw. And then you're done. You're going to go ahead and give it a quick power test. Looks like it works fine. Now it's time for the app. So the first thing you're going to want to do is download the Traxxas link from the App Store. I went ahead and already downloaded it, so I'm going to open it up. Inside you get your menu. I'm going to go ahead and select a model. We're going to do 2-wheel drive off-road electric. And now we need to find Rustler VXL. There it is. We are going to select that. We are going to enter in Demon. Save. Now we're going to go ahead and go into dashboard. And there you go. The dashboard has been built. Now we need to go ahead and plug this into the remote. So all I'm going to do is slide the iPhone in, and then I'm going to lock it using this arm. Open up the app, and everything should be good. Let's turn it on and test it out. So once you have everything connected, you're going to want to look at your screen. These 2 symbols should be green. If either one of them is red, that means you don't have a full connection to this app. On this side, you have the radio with its battery life, and this side you have the vehicle with its battery life. I'm going to go ahead and open up the dashboard. There it is, and now we're going to go ahead and test and see if everything works. That is freaking awesome, guys. We got, of course, RPM, the miles per hour, we have the temperature, as well as a battery. If we click on the screen, we can choose theme, and we can go to their classic. And there you have it. Now, guys, this is very nice, but you're gonna have to be careful about the top speed. The top speed is a loose estimate. It's not 100% accurate. If you want 100% accurate, you're gonna have to go with the GPS. Now, you can go into garage, and then you can do model setup. Under here, you can do the spur, pinion, drive, tires, battery, ESC, and motor, which I already set up. Everything else, all the other options on here are definitely something to check out and look into. So now that everything is up and running, guys, I am finally done with this upgrade. You can even see that I tested out the top speed. I made it to 66, and that was just messing around too. Now guys, I won't lie, out of all the upgrades I've done to this RC, the telemetry by far was the most annoying thing to ever install into this RC. Mainly due to the fact that a lot of the wires were just too short, so I had to cut them and extend them by soldering on some extra wire. Other than that, the whole app, well, it had to update and it froze halfway through, crashed. Then I had to reset it, and then it finally took, and now I can use it. So I was a bit worried there for a second. This whole setup is a bit outdated nowadays because they went to the Bluetooth setup. But for now, I am very, very, very happy with the telemetry inside of Demon. I have to admit, guys, this is pretty darn cool. So thank you, Coyote0976, and thank you, Radio Control 360, for helping me make this happen. Oh, and just in case you were wondering, guess what? You don't need the iPhone in there in order to use your RC. And that was Demon's level 61 upgrade.